Shiawassee. A topic about census, complete the count committee.
Yes, I'm new to this. Do I sit? Do I stand?
You can stand, sit, whatever you feel comfortable.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Lorraine Austin. I live at 906 Chipman Lane in Owasso. I was born and raised in Owasso. This is my mother, Doris Austin. She's 91. And she came with my father, Dr. Eugene Austin, in the early 50s, made a life for themselves here in Shiawassee County. I currently serve as the executive director of the Friends of the Shiawassee River, whose office, as you know, is located just down the street. I've come tonight to express my support for the development of a complete count committee by the county commissioners. As you know, every 10 years, the U.S. Census Bureau tallies up all people living in the United States. The founding fathers thought this data was so important that they mandated it as part of the Constitution. As you're fully aware, the data collected by the census determines the number of seats each state has in the U.S. House of Representatives and is also used to distribute billions in federal funds to local communities. The census is most definitely important. Our whole representative form of democracy is based on it. The census also helps with equitable distribution of public funds, like federal and state funding for educational programs, healthcare, law enforcement, and highways. Equitable distribution of the billions of dollars of public money requires up-to-date population data. In addition, businesses often refer to census data when determining whether to come into a particular area. I would encourage the Shiawassee County Commissioners to oversee a complete count committee, ensuring we have an accurate count of individuals. Counties like ours that have high levels of poverty and elderly citizens will need to take extra measures to count these people. My understanding is that a complete count committee will require absolutely no obligation of funding on your part. In addition, you as commissioners would have total oversight as to who would serve on this committee and what work was being done. Seems like a win-win for both you who serve and for those who call this county home. I want to end by saying thank you to you all for serving on this commission. It's often a thankless role, but this might be one way for you to take Shiawassee County to a new level of productivity, to negate the tribalism that's been having developed in our country, to show that we in Shiawassee County work together, no matter our differences, to help those in need, like the amazing things that were done for the tornado victims. We work together to make sure all people matter. We work together to make sure that we're represented and that our voices are heard, and that we work together to get things done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lorraine. And at this time, we'll also call up Mary Warner Stone to address the board from Durand, topic being the March 2019 tornadoes.
Hi, my name is Mary Warner Stone. I am the Executive Director of Durand Union Station. I wear many hats in this county. I've lived in this county my entire life and currently live on Reed Road, just north of Bennington Road in Durand. As you are aware, the tornado came through that area. It actually tore the roof of my mom's house off. So being in the middle of that situation, it was very interesting for me to see what was going on around us when it was all taking place. And I want to give huge kudos to our county's Homeland Security, the first responders, the nonprofits in our county, and the volunteers. What I saw that weekend was our county coming together as a whole. It wasn't about Durand, it wasn't about Vernon Township, it wasn't about Venice Township or the city of Owasso. It was about Shiawassee County, and that was huge. And honestly, my heart swells that we had that much community happening right here. We don't see that very often in Shiawassee County, and I think it was an eye-opener for everybody so that we could see that we could come together. It was awesome. It was truly awesome. And what I would like to encourage the you today is to continue to look at resources available to our county, because every penny that was spent on training the leaders, the Homeland Security, the first responders, was priceless. My mom was in her home when the tornado hit. She actually went to her bathroom, which is an interior room, to take cover from the storm. She saw that it was getting dark outside and she thought, well, maybe I should take cover. It was a first responder that got to her first. We actually live right next door to her, and my husband and son came up out of the basement, saw what was going on, and my son went over to the house to get her out. And it was a firefighter that was in the house getting her out before we could even get to her. That was huge. So I encourage you to continue the momentum that took place because of that storm. The coming together of everybody working to make things possible. And I encourage you to continue to find funding for Shiawassee County. I believe in the police and the firefighters and spending the tax money on those important things. I've always believed that, but I know now why I believe that. It was firsthand information and seeing everything work, and it worked that weekend. Our county did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. I agree with you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the Board of Commissioners at this time? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on now to our Economic and Physical Development Report from Commissioner Dan McMaster.
Mr. Chair, item A, I move to consider accepting and placing on file the Shiawassee County Register of Deeds 2018 annual report.
Motion on the floor.
Support.
We have Commissioner Webster support. Any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor, moving it on, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item B, I move to consider appointing Sean Sepka to the Planning Commission representing government to fill a vacancy effective immediately and expiring on December 31st, 2021, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the coordinator or board chair to execute all necessary documents. Support.
Motion and support, any discussion on item B? Hearing none, all in favor of moving on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion
Item
carries.
Item C, I move to consider adopting resolution number 19-04-04 to form a 2020 Census Complete Count Committee as a temporary special committee of the board and appoint a committee chairperson.
Item C, motion on the floor. Your support?
Support.
We have a second. Item C, open for discussion. Is there any? All right. Perhaps we want to discuss who we would appoint to the board, chair, anything like that before we pass it?
I'm still not sure that really falls under our responsibility. It's not that I disagree with the concept, but.
Can I address that?
Yes, you may.
If you go to census.gov
I
and
have.
the information
I
there says
absolutely have.
that the highest elected official of whatever jurisdiction you're trying to address. So in a large city, you might have a city council that does it or a precinct that does it. So
Yes,
whatever
I
the
read.
highest elected officials. So if we're going to do a count for Shiawassee County, which in a county the size of ours, I would say we probably wouldn't break up into small committees, that we would want to do this for the whole county, then the highest elected officials in the county, and it delineates Board of Commissioners, would be the people who, if you're doing this countywide, the Board of Commissioners would be the ones to establish this committee. That's outlined on census.gov.
Again, I did read it, but we as a county do not perform the census.
That's true.
my question. That's my.
Well,
concern.
but the idea is that these committees are being formed at those government levels to help be sure that the census is conducted accurately in their community. So they're happening all over the place, counties,
So
villages.
the federal government wants us to now do their work for them and get no support.
Well, I mean, that, you can say that, but what happens if we don't is we don't get counted and we get less money. So,
So they hold us hostage to,
you know,
it's like an unfunded mandate from the state. It's the same thing.
but the only people who hurt if we don't do it is us. So,
That's assuming that they can't do it without us.
I think that is the concern, that it will not be accurately done without us, and that we will miss out on funding if we don't.
Is there any other commissioners that would like to?
Yeah, I would. Could you reach out to Mac, Mike, and see if they could have a question to us by tomorrow of the counties that are participating and forming these committees, of
All
the
right.
82 counties?
All right.
That way we can have it for tomorrow for our final vote. Just a comparison to see who's really jumping in on this.
And as this motion is worded, it also says that the board will appoint a committee chairperson. Of course, that doesn't have to happen until tomorrow, but is that something that we're gonna do as a board? We're gonna just leave it to the board chairman to appoint someone, or are we gonna do that?
I would say we leave it to the board chairman like any other committee.
Okay. That answers my question. Any other discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor of moving item C on to Thursday signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Item D, I move to consider designating commissioners to attend the road commission and medical care facility board meetings.
Motion on the floor.
Support.
Second. Open for discussion. We really need a motion for this. Is this something that the board
Okay,
chairman
now.
can just do?
We have volunteer, we already, Gary and John
Yeah.
already said that they would do,
And the chairman concurs.
road commission.
So we need to vote on this, or just more
Commissioner
discussion?
Plowman already attended one meeting this week for the road commission.
Yep, I can do the medical care facility board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know that we need a motion, we'll just make appointments.
Yeah, they fall under our authorization for the budgets anyway, so it's more or less an internal.
Madam Clerk, who made the motion?
Commissioner McMaster.
I'll withdraw your motion, so we don't have to vote on
I
it.
will withdraw my motion.
It's more like just a request that some commissioners attend those meetings.
Yeah.
Right.
And they have,
See what's going on.
This is more of a mandate than,
yeah.
Well, it designates. It's not-
okay. If that's the case, Commissioner McMaster, I assume that concludes your report?
Yes, that concludes my report, Mr. Chair. However, I do have an item I want to discuss under other agenda items when we get to that.
We will, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McMaster. At this time, we'll move on to County Finance and Administration. Commissioner Plowman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move to consider resolution number 19-04-03 to adopt the county's final equalization values for 2019 and authorize the board chair and county clerk to execute all documents as necessary.
I'll second that.
Motion on the floor, Commissioner Root, second. Items open for discussion, questions. Hearing none, all in favor of moving item A on to tomorrow signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I move to pursuant to the adoption of the county's final 2019 equalization values, consider approving the total equalized valuations form L-4024 and the final equalized valuations by local jurisdictions form L-4037 and authorize the board chair and county clerk to execute any documents as necessary.
Second.
Motion, we have a second. Items open for discussion and questions. All right, hearing none. Item B, all in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
I move to consider approving contracts with Watkins, Ross and Company for actuarial evaluations of other post-employment benefits, OPEB, with regard to general county obligations and to the medical care facility, which are required for completion of the annual audit, and authorize the coordinator to execute all documents. The cost of the valuations for fiscal year FY 2018 is $5,900 for the general county obligations and $5,300 for the medical care facility. Under the agreements, we can obtain the valuations for next year's audit FY 2019 at $2,000 for the general county and $1,700 for the medical care facility.
All right, now that Commissioner Plowman's out of breath, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second, we'll give it to Commissioner Carter. Item is open for discussion.
You want me to explain what?
You go ahead, yes,
Go
sure.
ahead.
Sounds confusing.
Yeah, they had, for several years now, one of the required parts of the completing the audit is what's called, they call it the OPEBs. It's other post-employment benefits. I think we discussed this earlier this week. And primarily for us, that is that there are some employees who retire, primarily in the sheriff's department, but there's also some very senior ones left to go in the classified service otherwise, who receive health care in retirement till age 65. We have not funded that in advance. It's less than 1% funded. It pales in comparison to the murderous underfunding, to say the least, but nevertheless, it is a significant expense and it is underfunded, and it does now have to be evaluated. This rate, Watkins Ross does these actuarial evaluations. They were recommended, by the way, by SK&T, who's now Maynard Casterison, and you notice that it's $5,900 for the general county amount. And I had a conversation with Commissioner Root, because the time is a bit of the essence. They need to be taken underway. And so that one was signed and sent to them for $5,900. Now bear in mind, next year, because you only have to do the census item every other year, and you can roll it forward in the intervening year. So it'd be $5,900 this year, next year, $2,000. And the following year, you got a contract for it. Just to compare, I grabbed the 2015 with Gabriel Roller Smith out of Southfield. Cheryl Grice had contracted that one. And instead of $5,900, this was 2015, and that was $15,360 for that one. Now, they also had the medical care facility, and Watkins Ross, and including Maynard Casterison, I think at first didn't realize that there was a separate component, because they are done separately, but they are part of our audit. So that one, when realized it had to be done as well, Watkins Ross has offered to do that one for $5,300, and for fiscal year 2018, and then $1,700 in the off year for 2019. Comparison, that was $7,360 instead of $5,300 in 2015 through Gabriel Roller. In addition, that $5,300 for medical care facility will be paid out of the medical care facility funds. So even though that one has to be approved as well, really we're still, for us, for the general county and the general fund budget, $5,900. The other contract we signed is what will be spent, and then $5,300 for medical care, and then $2,000 next year. So the request is that they will be approved, and time is important.
Mr. Holzhausen?
Did you talk to that repair facility about this, and they're aware of it?
I don't know if they are or not, but we have to do it, and like I said, it's been done. We've been doing this for several years.
Could the previous audits not discover that we've only been 1% funded, or how does that work?
That's exactly what they discovered.
Well, then
They just put it down. I mean, it's in the annual audit. They put that it's 1% funded, but that's been going on for years. What we do with medical care for retirees who get it is we continue to pay it just like we do for normal employees till they're age 65. Again, it's mostly sheriff's departments. There is a few very senior employees who are left who will receive it.
So does the unfunded and funded portions of this show up in the, is this something that didn't show up in the audit before, like when our MERS thing used to not show up, but now we have to put what we're funded or our unfunded liability?
It was in the last audit, and presumably in the ones before that.
Well, I know they are, but they're never on that, like the deck sheet, the main page that people
Yes.
view and see, but now we're required to put that
Yes,
unfunded liability
and it
out
may be
there.
that is what this one doesn't, but just, you have to list it as a potential liability. It's a liability for the county, it's gotta be paid.
All right, well, thank you for that very good explanation.
I move to consider approving a $935.12 upward adjustment to the board's previously approved payment of $3,700.
Motion carries.
Item B, I move to consider authorizing $250 to be paid to Leanne Soskell for transporting neglected livestock from where seized to Cramble Farms for caretaking and disposition in connection with a criminal prosecution. Line item 101-603-840.000.
Support.
Motion, we have a second. Items open for discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, item B, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
Item C, I move to consider authorizing animal control to purchase a 2019 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 four-wheel drive double cab truck from Hank Graff Chevrolet of Davison in the amount of $28,749.50, with $21,230 paid out of animal control donations fund and the remaining $7,519.50 paid from the sale of a 2012 Tahoe from the Sheriff's Office fleet and the military 1033 fund.
Support.
We have a motion, we have a support. Item is open for discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, item C, moving on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Webster, I presume that concludes your report?
It does. I do have another agenda item you and I discussed, and
Yep.
we'll add that at the end.
I have you first on the list, all right. Thank you, Commissioner Webster. At this time, we'll now move on to Health and Human Services Report, Commissioner Carpenter.
Thank you. First agenda item would be to consider approving an addendum to the Mid-State Health Network Region 5 Intergovernmental 18 Board meeting and authorize the coordinator or board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor, we have motion.
Consider authorize a temporary summer intern for personal community health at a rate of $12.30 per hour with no other benefits. It is noted that this position is funded by the Cook Foundation and authorize Health Department Director to sign all necessary documents.
Item C, open for discussion. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
The final item would be to consider reappointing Bruce Cadwallander, Kirby Vogel, and Vicki Bochek to the Shiawassee County Community Mental Health Authority Board for 3-year terms from 4/1/19 to 3/31/2022, or until a successor is appointed, and authorize the coordinator or board chair to execute all necessary documents.
Support.
A motion and a second. The item is open for discussion. And hearing none, all in favor of item D, moving on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries.
That's it.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Garber. At this time, we'll now move on to the Chairman of the Board's report. Mr. Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you. I do have one thing that I want to bring before you guys from the board. Under the state of emergency, the board chair does have the emergency ability to expense funds without county board approval. However, I kept mulling this one over and wanted to come back to the board. But, in light of the extraordinary amounts of time and service that were spent out there by our emergency manager, I'd like this board to consider approving 70 hours of straight time pay and 56 hours of overtime pay for the 2-week pay period of March 16th to March 29th. And I would make that motion so that would go before the board tomorrow for consideration.
We have a motion, we have a second. To get this out to tomorrow,
Yes.
this committee just has to have a simple majority, right?
Right.
Good. Okay, so,
Yeah, and we'll get the totals of it, but I think we all know our emergency manager is a 24-hour position. He was out there for 2 weeks straight, and he was only paid for his 24 hours. So I think in the event that this type of thing happens, it doesn't happen often, this doesn't happen every week, this doesn't happen every day, I think we can certainly pay our emergency manager the time he was there. Because the time he served here, he missed out on other opportunities and other commitments to his other positions that he otherwise would have been at and would have been able to recoup some of his pay, and that's my position.
I would suggest too that at some point the board consider him a lot of emergency managers are full-time, and there's reasons for that. And he had mentioned to me, if he's full-time, he probably would, but this is extraordinary for a person who only has 24 hours a week to have to spend.
I think that's a good point, Mike. I think that it's certainly time we readdress that position being full-time. But for now,
That's an aside.
certainly support this.
And I guess when that comes up to vote on, I would say I shared, I don't know how many days side by side with him. I can attest to everything he brought to the table, experience, contacts, networks, people outside the county, people from around the state that showed up to help. All that was possible because of Trent Atkins. That certainly wouldn't have happened if Trent wasn't here. But I'll say that for down the road when we discuss that and going full-time, but he really did put in, along with a lot of other people, but quite an effort during our tornado situation.
Mr. Root, can I ask for additional information? Can you share a little more? I haven't heard an explanation for why we were denied assistance from the state other than what's in the paper. Is there more that we know? If we expend more money, is there any chance, I heard Representative Frederick might be working on something. Is there any chance some of that's going to be reimbursed to us?
I don't know if it will be or not. I know Representative Frederick and Senator Barrett were working on it, but I don't think they're getting anywhere with it. I guess we're supposed to reach a certain amount that we're supposed to expend, and the overwhelming support that we received from our community and our volunteers, we didn't have to expend as much funds as we had thought. We only were about $150,000 that was expended. The problems that come in are the hours of the time that, say, Vernon and Venice and Shiawassee Township fires were out. Those are part-time people that aren't, probably wouldn't have been us directly, the county, but it would have been to help those departments that did exceed 10% of their fire budget for the year, expending their resources to be out. So the Section 19 funding, which was strictly only for emergency service personnel, it's not for rebuilding homes, it's not for infrastructure of any kind, that was something we assumed was a no-brainer that we would get no matter what, which would cover Trent's time, which would cover, anyone at the health department that had been there along the drain office, anyone that's out there would cover their time too, but, I don't know that we're gonna get anything.
We didn't expend enough, or didn't expend enough percentage of the budget?
Yeah, the damage was over 1% of our general fund budget, which puts us into an emergency situation. But then the money expended by us, we didn't have to pay for dump trucks, we didn't have to pay for excavation, we didn't have to pay for saw crews, we didn't have to, none of that, 'cause everybody just came in and did it, you didn't even really have to ask. Dan probably knows more on that.
Yeah, so,
People just came out.
I guess, some of this is, and I'm kind of torn because, and I will say, I know the governor reached out to Commissioner Root and said, whatever you need. I know we had state police that were there to the very end, so we did have some state resources. But in some ways, we did too good of a job by locals, neighbors, cleaning up the debris before we even started cleaning up, and our volunteer crews coming out. I will say I'm very disappointed, though, that we did not get a visit. Having worked 20 years in Lansing, I know of other tornadoes where legislators, we've had the governor out within a day to view the tornado damage. We're only 30-some miles from Lansing. So I'm kind of disappointed about that, and I know in the past, things have been worked out to help communities, help pay for debris removal, and the emergency first responders, the overtime and everything. But it's my understanding that Representative Frederick and Senator Barrett, through the appropriation process, are going to try to get $150,000, maybe $200,000 appropriated to us so we can, or somehow to us so we can offset like those three townships.
So would this be accurate to say there's one cost is all of the damage done? That's one thing. Another cost is the debris removal, the cost of the work and the labor and equipment and all of that. And another cost is time of first responders and all of that. So kind of those three big pots. So I can see where maybe the community coming in and helping with debris removal, that would be a reason we wouldn't get help with that because it was already done. But I don't understand why we wouldn't get reimbursed for first responder and emergency manager time It doesn't make sense to me. So they haven't given us an explanation.
I can't
They haven't given us, I have put another call into the governor's office and I have yet to receive anything back, so I don't know that I.
Because no matter how many neighbors come out, it doesn't change how much you had to pay
Right,
first responders and
that's right.
all that kind of thing.
I can tell you for my part, I'm going to be extraordinarily disappointed at the end of this fiscal year if the state section 19 fund still has money in it. And we didn't get it. That's what it's for. You had an opportunity to use it for people like you counted up this, and I said it before, and I'll say it again, sometimes we feel like a forgotten county out here. If it would have been another county, maybe it could have got more press. I feel like we'd have been out there walking the streets, shaking hands, and any money they needed. Because we're Shiawassee County. No. Yes, Commissioner.
Also too, a subtle thing here is that sometimes they don't grant you money, but they give you emergency status. We were not even granted emergency status, and if we'd been granted emergency status, some of the individuals who didn't have enough insurance, or didn't have insurance and have to rebuild, they could have tapped federal and state funds at a very, very low interest rate. And if they qualify, maybe no interest rate at all, for to rebuild or whatever they may do. That can be a whole area of things. But that wasn't done either. And of course, the Barrett and Fredericks are working on that also. So it's kind of disappointing.
Commissioner Olshausen?
I just seen in the paper where the road commission, they put a lot of extra time and effort in there.
$108,000.
I don't know, what was the amount? I guess I don't remember.
Yeah, I can report on that tomorrow. I went to their meeting, but they got approximately $108,000 in cost incurred on so on and so forth for wages, labor, and equipment.
You know,
Yeah.
I will say, having been firsthand there, everything, and I know there was a lot of stuff on social media that said that Commissioner Root didn't fill out the emergency declaration properly, which is complete BS because the state police helped us draft it and follow all the rules. Everything was documented, every dump truck full of debris, every press release, every volunteer, every hour, everything was documented in spreadsheets. We kept track of everything that we were supposed to, turned it in. And like I said, in my previous career, I've seen people with less documented work receive funding. I have seen communities with less tornado damage receive funding and visits from the governor's office. And we did not receive that. And I'm doing all I can to bite my tongue and say it's not political and has nothing to do with our House and our Senate seat being 50% seats being both held by a differing party than the governor's office. And I'll leave it at that. But that's the reality. Because I can tell you what their previous governor would have been out here, because I know he was, because I was involved in the whole Dexter tornado situation, and he was out there within a day.
So we do have a motion on the floor, we do have a second, we are voting, if I'm not mistaken, to pay the overtime for our workers. Is it just Trent? It's just Trent, our emergency manager, for the extra time he put in because he is classified as part-time. So, hearing no other commissioner discussion on this item, we'll go ahead and we'll vote. All right, all in favor of moving this on to tomorrow, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
That's all I have as a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, we're going to turn the floor over to Commissioner Webster and other agenda items.
Yes, so tonight we have a very special honor of having with us the Valley Area Agency on Aging Centenarian of the Year. As I am appointed to that committee, I was on vacation and not able to be there. But Irene Hosking is here, and she was honored at that dinner. Sally and I had some conversation. We're going to make sure that a press release happens. We haven't seen that yet, so we're going to make sure a press release happens. But Irene, we are so privileged to have you in our community and so proud of you. And I just wanted to acknowledge you in a public meeting and make sure that everyone here knew about this incredible award that you were given. Being a centenarian, what does that mean? It means you're 50 years old, right? Thank you. Thank you for all you do and have done for our community. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Webster. Absolutely, very good. At this time, we'll go ahead and turn turn the floor over to Commissioner McMaster, who had some other.
Okay, so I don't have anything drafted, and I'm just throwing this out there. I know there's been a lot of discussion with the potential ballot, May 7th ballot proposal to build a new jail and sheriff's office. There's been a lot of questions out in the public about what would happen if extra revenue is received into the general fund from additional bed rentals, because there's the possibility with the size of the new facility to generate some revenue. While we all understand that's not profit making, and it just kind of, the purpose would serve to offset the costs. A lot of citizens have asked me, is there any way that money that could be used to help pay down the bond early? I've told everybody, the sheriff's told everybody that currently, depending on the year, 300, 400,000, whatever is generated revenue from the sheriff's department, and when I say revenue, not just bed rentals, but everything else, comes into the general fund, and the commissioners use that to help balance the budget and provide other services for the county. So I just kind of want to test the water, see what everyone thinks about maybe making some kind of a resolution or proposal that anything generated over X amount of dollars, which would have to be adjusted each year based on the consumer price index, CPI, or rate of inflation, because $300,000 today is not what $300,000 is going to be 10 years from now. They have some of that money to go towards, or a commitment, at least from this board, to pay down the bond early, or to reduce costs. I know Mike and I have had many conversations about this, and I know you can't pay it off all completely early. I mean, it has to be in effect, the payments have to be in effect for a while, but there certainly is things that either it could be that money could be earmarked towards maintenance, or some of it could be used to pay down the principal on the bond. So I just want to throw that out there, see what everybody says. Thanks. Gary?
I never did get a dollar amount. Do we get extra prisoners? What's the dollar amount we get?
It all depends who we negotiate, who it is. If it's a federal prisoner, if it's U.S. Marshal Service, we'll get more. If it's from another county.
What? Never get a dollar.
Well, I don't know. It depends. It could be $30. It could be $100 a night. It all depends on transportation. It depends where you have to go get them. It's with the Marshal Service. That's an agreement. The counties compete and negotiate. They bid, and they say, okay, well, we can house 30 at this much, and we'll go down twice a week to Detroit to pick them up. And we could say $60. We could say $65. Bed rentals for other counties and other court systems, it could be 40, it could be 50, it could be 60.
What do we do? You bid on them? Is that it?
You develop relationships. Some of these relationships have been severed by previous sheriffs, but you can develop relationships with different judges, different courts, and different sheriff's departments, and know that you have beds available for rent. So
It's just I guess I think a little different, but I think if we just took care of our own prisoners and worry about it, somebody else taking care of their own.
okay, so
That's just my thought.
okay, but I'll explain this. If this jail is built for 224 people, whether we have 100 people in it or 180 inmates, the staff's going to be the same, the heat's going to be the same, the cost of the roof, the cost of the structure, everything's the same. The only cost that goes up is $3.50 per day for food, and then water, whatever water they're going to use, either drinking or using that goes to the sewer system, and then a pair of flip-flops and a jumpsuit. It will not require any additional, because the new facility, the way it will be built, will be more efficient. We do not need to hire any more people. You don't need to, it's all there, it's fixed. So a lot of these costs are fixed, so by renting beds early on, we can generate some revenue to offset the cost.
Mr. Chairman?
I just wanted to, I'm not against the proposal or the idea. I've talked to the sheriff a few times, but I do want to correct just one thing. The money made from the jail doesn't go to shore up any other accounts in the general fund, and it doesn't help prop up the general fund in any way. It doesn't even cover their obligation to murders in the sheriff's office. So I mean, there is no money made from the jail. There is no money propping up the general fund. There's no money that comes back to us in any way to shore up other areas. So I mean, I'm hesitant on committing that money to a bond payment when we can barely pay their MERS obligation. So that's been my We end up shoring up their MERS payment because that doesn't even cover it. So, I mean, if they could make more money and start paying their MERS payment, that would certainly be a little bit of a burden off of our general fund, certainly, but.
Commissioner Olshausen?
I guess everybody thinks different. If they think that they got more people in there, everything's the same. I guess in my house, if I had me and my wife and we had another 8 people in there, things would not be the same. So I don't know how you can say that, but my mind doesn't think that way. I don't think everybody else thinks that way. If they had another 8, 10 people in their house, everything, the heat be the same, everything's the same, wear and tear's the same, lights the same. It's not true, so that's just my thinking.
Chairman, I do gotta say something about the process. A resolution like this would not necessarily be binding on future boards. They could always rescind it. Indeed, this board itself could rescind it at some future date. You kind of want to be careful that it doesn't look like it promises more than what is actually committed. But I understand the sentiment.
I mean, I'm sorry, it's no different than schools. There's that certain point where if you don't have to hire any more teachers and your classes only have 15 people, but you open up your schools of choice and you can get 5 more in, then you get revenue from the state, and it's still, the costs are the same.
And I'll say again, and I'll probably continue to say this, and I don't mean to make people sick of hearing it, but we are building into the bond $500,000 a year for operation and programming. And some long-term thinking, even beyond, what are we gonna do after the 20 years to pay for those 2 things? That we have to keep that in mind. We can't just, in 20 years, leave people with a jail that can't pay any of the operations or the programming on. And if there is extra, whatever that looks like, if it all goes back into the jail, that it not go to anything except for being designated to pay for operations and maintenance and programming on the jail 20 years from now, we don't have a millage anymore.
That is true. I feel like for my own part, I would be, more happy with some sort of, I think we projected a 2% growth to get our numbers. Well, what if somehow something happens like a project and all of a sudden we get 6, 7, 8% growth in this county? I'd be more comfortable instead of saying, renting beds, it seems like you're renting beds to make a profit. Now we're, at least it doesn't avoid that appearance, even though I understand your reasoning. Saying, well, if we're anything above 3% growth, then anything above that tax revenue, we take that money and we put it toward, that almost guarantees that, it doesn't.
Yeah, I wouldn't want.
Like you said, the jail money that we're getting from those beds goes into our general fund, which we then use to pay for things that go on in that jail, period. Which we'll be paying for one way or the other. That might not be the case if there's a solar farm that goes in, or some factory, or you start developing 52 or some areas around 69. That would be extra tax revenue that we have not planned for coming in. Maybe we can. And again, as our coordinator so aptly suggested, any future board could undo anything we do today anyway. So, Chairman Root.
I think I just want to be careful associating anything with a bond or a promise to the bond because of that fact that a board, if we all get unelected here in a year and a half and a new board comes in and says, nope, then they're going to say, well, look, that board promised us they were going to pay it down, and now they're not. So I wouldn't want to make any promises. But if we come up with something like that, then maybe we do, but I don't know that I'd use it as my plug. I don't know.
Yeah. Commissioner Olshausen.
I guess we can debate it and everybody has different opinions, but I think it's going to be up to the voters. Whatever the voters want, if they want to pay for it, they will. If they don't, they won't. So
That's true. This could be all for nothing.
Yep.
Yeah. This could be all for nothing.
Well, thank you for that, Commissioner McMaster. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Speaking for the people, and I've heard from a lot of them, we have no trust and faith in the Board of Commissioners. So,
All right. In that case, we'll move on to Commissioner Plowman.
Yeah, this week I had a couple discussions with Tony, our drain commissioner, and he has a couple of things that have come up that he might want to do. And so, Tony, I'll let you explain it.
Well, we bought one of our new pickups in 2015, and then we just bought the other one last year. And I had some conversation with Bill Campbell from Signature Ford. He called me and asked me, he said, well, why don't you consider keeping your trucks updated rather than letting them go to where they were now? And like the 2015, now he's told me, he says that that's probably worth about anywhere from $24,000 to $26,000. Because it's got 58,000 miles on it. And to buy a new one to replace it, you'd be looking like at 31,000. Which, we could do that out of our equipment fund if that's true, that we could get that kind of money out of it. And that, I think it would make a lot of sense, because the last two that we had, both of them had pretty near 200,000 miles on it. We kept putting a lot of money into it. I don't want to get into that down the road, you know. So, and we've been saving to buy an excavator, because we rent one every year, a small one. Because it's a lot handier, we go in the yard, a lot of yards that we go into, does a lot less damage. But the problem with renting it every year is that you've got to make sure you keep using it, you know, we can't leave it set where. Because we was out on a drain project for a month and a half and had to leave our back there, because we had to go out every couple of days and dig for a month and a half before we were renting pieces of equipment out there. That wouldn't pay. Anyways, he called me and asked me about it, and I said, well, I'll bring it up to the board, see what they say. He's the one that does the municipal selling for Signature Ford. He's who we buy our trucks through him. So it's just something I wanted to bring up. Yeah, go ahead.
I think that's all right, if you should take it out of your budget, and you should be charging enough to the drains to pay for it. Last time, we $20,000 out of the general budget.
Yeah, well, that's what I said.
I don't think that's right. If you take it out on your job, that's up to you to charge enough to keep the truck up.
Yeah, and that's what we got, is come out of our equipment fund if we did do it.
Yeah, if you can do it out of your fund, it's, you know, Marker County doesn't have to pay for it out of our general fund.
Yeah, I wouldn't do nothing to the county fund, it's all out of our equipment.
Yeah.
Commissioner McMahon.
Mr. Chair, I guess I would ask Commissioner Newman if you could get with the Ford dealership, get exact quotes and everything, get it on paper, and submit it for an agenda item for next month.
Yeah,
If
we could do
if
that,
that's-
yeah.
That works.
Yeah,
Or just not to exceed. I mean, yeah.
well, and it would all depend on what we sold this truck for. We can't get what close to what he says
Well,
we can get out of it. He knows, but I still wanna,
if your new truck's gonna cost 31,000, you know, he's gonna trade for 6.
you know.
I mean, he's gonna take your truck in at 25, and he's gonna sell it for 30. You follow me, everyone?
Well, we'll have to sell it ourselves, because with the municipality discount that we get like a $12,000 discount. He can't take it in on trade, see now, with the municipality.
Okay.
We'd have to sell it ourselves,
Okay, so
which
Bill,
he said he would help us do, but it can't be part of buying the new truck because of the discount that we get from
okay.
Ford.
Even so, yeah, normally Tony's truck that he's priced out, because we got a government discount, that truck would be $46,000 out the door. Instead, he's buying it for $32,000 out the door. So, it's, and used trucks right now are bringing a ton of money, and you'll probably be able to sell it, because nothing stays on anybody's lot that's a used truck.
It's in decent shape.
And then also your excavator, that's also government pricing.
Yeah,
Yep, so.
if we bought a new one, but I talked to Jeremy and them last year about it. I just been looking around just to buy something that's not got a lot of hours on it. That would probably last us 20 years, you know. I mean, I'm not looking to.
I think you should get that. You need that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm for the truck as well, but the excavator, I know you've been looking for that, and
Yeah.
I think that would help you a lot. And your truck, you might be able to get a little bit more time out of it, being it's 15, but
Yeah.
the excavator, definitely, I would look into. Do you have like, because I mean, what are you spending per year renting one?
Yeah, last year we spent $8,000. Year before we spent $6,000.
Yeah, but you'd have it all the time now.
Yeah, we could have been had it over half paid for it, just the 2 years.
Well, if, we could do part, if we could give authorization date for the excavator, and if you wanna put together the deal for the truck for next month, we can do that.
Yeah, and that's what I'll look into, because I want to talk to Bill more. He was
Yeah.
gone on vacation, I told him I'd get with him when he got back.
That would give him 30 days to say, I'm gonna have this truck in on trade, he's got customers. And I say, when the county's truck comes in, you can buy this truck, and you can maybe do the deal.
Because he asked what we did with the other ones.
Yes.
Well, we sold them, we didn't get a lot out of it, you know. Yeah, so. All right, Gary. you get something?
Yeah, I didn't know if you got a price on the new ones, how much they went up or not, so.
Well, the price, he gave me a ballpark
Oh,
figure of
okay.
like 31,000.
Oh,
It's
okay.
about the same as what we paid for the last one.
I didn't know if the, pricings went up or not too much, so. I just saw that.
Okay.
Commissioner Plowman, anything else to add?
No.
Is there any other commissioners that have anything to add to the other agenda items section of the meeting?
I could make a motion that we, Tony can move ahead and buy the excavator. Or do you,
You could make that motion. I certainly would like to see numbers before we,
Yeah.
personally.
Tony, you wanna wait till next month? To put it all,
Yeah,
get your
I'll get
numbers?
some stuff around, yeah.
Okay. Only discussion.
Okay.
Only discussion.
All right. Any other commissioners with other agenda items? We'll now move on to our second opportunity for public comments, and we'll start off with Rick Labden about the jail. You have the floor, sir.
I actually have a couple of different topics, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Garber, you described it as an unfunded mandate, but it's a pretty important one, and in fact, you could look at it as if it were mandated, because if we can find some more folks, we'll get more money, and we'll get more representation, and is that not? I think that's true, and just on the basis of democracy, I think we should try to get as many folks as we can identified and have the proper representation in Washington and Lansing. All right. Mr. Herndon, could you mentioned in your issue a medical care facility? I didn't know what that was, which facility it was. Is that some?
It's the one that used to be down here on South Norton Avenue, and now it's up on, north of, the Caledonia Township Hall, the entrance is.
And what is its name, please?
Well, it's it's the Shiawassee County Medical Care Facility. It's,
Okay.
Isn't
Like-
it commonly called
It's-
Pleasant View?
Oh, all right, all right. I'm sorry, I just didn't know the link.
That's the old name, Pleasant View.
They still got it on the
They've got it on
sign.
the sign.
It says Pleasantville right on it, very good letters, so.
All right, Mr. Labden, you still have the floor.
Jail. Well, I think everyone here pretty much knows my position on the jail, and I'm not going to spend much time talking about it, and I certainly don't pretend to have my finger on the pulse of the community, but it's my guess it's not gonna pass. But, I guess we each can look at that and read the tea leaves as we do, but it's not gonna pass. So I think what the county needs to do is give some thought to another option, a fallback position, because if everything is true, and I suspect it is, we're gonna get sued again over there. And that's a real issue, and it's a real monetary issue. This county could get hit badly. And if we start bringing in new people, the people they send us are going to increase that chance of some accident, some ill fortune, some tragedy, and we're gonna pay for it. Since it's not gonna pass, I suggest we start looking at housing our own and dealing with our own within the community, and use memorial health care, use the schools, use this community. I mean, with some of you, I didn't get off on the best, but I'm pissed off. Not about just things in general. I'm 74 years old, and I'm ashamed that what's happened to this country over my lifetime has happened. I truly am. And I walk my dog, and I see guys my age, and, they all excuse me, they all complain bitterly. But, you know, we're all to blame. It's us. I look around, you guys are all, most of you are in my age group. We have messed this up big time. And this county is, I come from a larger city back east. I didn't understand what a community was until I came to this county and this city of Owasso. Stuff happens, I'm sorry. Stuff happens and people come. There was an example of it earlier, like the tornado. I mean, that stuff is what makes a community. But building a 224 capacity jail to bring in the worst of the worst to make money off them is not the way to run Shiawassee County. We're so much better than that. I know, I'll be real quick. You know, the future growth. Hey, that would be wonderful. But it's not on the horizon. And when it is on the horizon, we'll have 4 years. The way things move, I don't need to tell you folks this, the way big projects like that move, they move at a snail's pace. We'll have plenty of time to anticipate that. We're making a huge mistake. What we should do is, I don't know what the number is, it's kind of arbitrary, but if you bring and you know, the sheriff, I had a conversation, he's a decent guy, I know that. But God, we're making a mistake. Build a jail for 105, 110, 95, I don't know what the number is, but that will serve the interests of the county today and in the future, and put all of the resources that we have in this county to keep the young people out of jail. We're jailing our own people. Why is that? You know, there's a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to get into it now, but examine it yourself. We have hurt the younger generation so badly. We've let them down in so many ways. And if you don't believe that, but you're of good faith, then speak to me afterward, and I'll give you 100 ways we have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lett. This time we'll move on to Mr. Les Schneider out of Durand. Your floor.
All right, thanks for the comment.
Another month, another couple-minute talk. First of all, you guys were mentioning on public safety, very last thing on number C was military 1033 fund. What the heck is that? Where does the money come from that?
I'm gonna let him answer that. That's a good question.
Can I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's a program the federal government has that offers either free equipment or equipment at auction to local government, police agencies, etc. Some of them could be Bradley tanks, or armored carriers that can be used by SWAT teams. When the county, once they receive that, they're never able to sell that. It has to go back to the federal government. There's certain equipment that comes from the federal government that can't be let out into the public for sale. After so many years of ownership, the county can then sell the items if they wish at local auction, and that's what's happened. Some of our equipment, anywhere from rifles to sights to lawnmowers to tractors, snow plows, all that stuff. A lot of it comes from the 1033 program. Some of it's free, some of it we buy it, the sheriff's department buys it at a real discounted rate at an auction. You're competing with other municipalities. And then a lot of it can be sold for 3-4 times the amount in a couple of years at public auction.
So it's a basic federal fund program.
It's a way the federal government gets rid of some of their surplus property, yes. Fire departments do it, police departments do it, sheriff's departments do it.
And my next question has got to be, it's going to sound stupid, but why haven't we ever done that before?
We do. That's why we have 1033 money to spend on stuff.
I think Sheriff goes first sheriff in a while to start really utilizing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, there's,
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
what
the
they're
last,
doing.
last time I heard is anybody using that, it was a gentleman from Oakland, and he was selling badges.
no, this is
Same
like,
idea.
help me out, you're telling me, but this is, we've had skid steers,
It's-
skidders, bobcats that
Yeah.
the department has taken in and loaned to the drain office, loaned to grounds and maintenance to use. There's, gators, little Kubota stuff that's used at the fair. There's stuff, I mean, there's, a lot of stuff comes into the sheriff's department, it's shared with other county agencies. Some of it is kept and is still being used, some of it has been sold off at a profit. The big brown vehicle over there, that's one of those vehicles that can never be released into the public, because that's
Yeah.
considered military. That was something that was done during the Obama administration. There's certain vehicles that you cannot put up for sale, public auction, but,
Okay.
and
There's-
there's
there's-
actually,
you know-
there's actually an employee in the sheriff's department that's part of his position. Everything's kept track of, everything's inventoried, there's audits, everything has to be reported in our county audit, vehicles and stuff like that, so. So yes, that's, in a nutshell, that's the 1033 program.
Okay. As just, when I served as, for 4 years, we never used this 1033.
Yeah, I don't know when it started, I don't know when.
That was
this
back a
originally
little
started,
bit, but I was just curious. The other thing I was asking is when are you guys gonna decide whether or not you're gonna help homeless vets with that property? Every day we postpone making a decision, more people are on the street. I'm sure you're all very aware is that we have lost on an average of 22 vets a day to suicide. Many of them are homeless. They've given up, as is, and we need to be proactive, as is, and start working on helping more people, not just vets, but homeless in the county. I'm sure you're more aware of numbers on how many homeless people we have in the county. Mentioning the tornado and all, we've gotten, I don't know how many people are now homeless. Homes got destroyed, homes got damaged real bad. We were lucky nobody got seriously hurt, as is, but having, like these tiny homes on wheels, is we could have used them, and parked them right in their yard or in their drive. That way the owners can stay right in on their property, manage everything day to day. Kids can still go catch the bus. You're still watching your household while you're cleaning up and all. And it's just taking care of our friends, our neighbors, and our family. And all we're trying to do is propose that we do something. And it's not gonna cost the county, right now, zip. We're just asking permission to sit on their lawn some darn where. We don't have to have running water, we don't have to have sewer. As during the winter, yes, we'll need electrical to help heat, but that's it. We can park it outside of any county building, and if somebody needs to use the bathrooms and all, I'm sure the sheriff would gladly unlock the back door to the juvenile detention center. But they're going to be self-contained. They will have, just like our campgrounds, self-contained water and toilet. So it's not going to cost anything. We've got 2 roads on that property going in. One's not much more than a lane, which is what you have to have for emergency vehicles. And that's it. It's close, but not right downtown. You can't consider putting it out in the boondocks, like they did with the The Welcome Home outfit in Bancroft. There ain't a thing in Bancroft but a bar. Or Old Elsie is where they're taking over a school out there. Again, it's a small town. There is nothing there. As in, you need to have something, so the people can get transportation to go to doctor's appointments and get groceries and do the day-to-day life. You can't do that when you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere. It's got to be near the outskirts of town. So it would be an ideal place. And we haven't used it for, how many years have we owned it? A lot. So let's do it. Yeah. Everything we own in the county has got minimal of liability insurance on it. Yeah, including across the street, all around the county buildings. Somebody falls down, hurts themselves, they're covered under our liability insurance. That is the same thing. You just put up a big building out there, pole barn, you got liability insurance on it. So we need to do something. I've gotten, in the last week, 10 days, I got a business out in West Town, West 21, that's going to allow us to park our trailers out there, take them apart, put them together, do whatever, no cost. A couple days ago, as I went up to Chesaning, there's a cabinet maker up there that's a veteran. He's going to make cabinets for nothing for our trailers. He's got a buddy that lives in St. Charles. He does floors, same thing. So they're going to be a lot better looking than what we had planned. And the cost is nothing. So we need you guys to stand up and be counted. Come on. As the alternative is that and I will raise the big red flag say that the commissioners ain't doing anything for our homeless in our county. Because in actuality, that's exactly what's happening. And you need to step up. So, make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you. And now move on to Joseph Snyder, Morris, Michigan. Your floor.
Thank you. I know we've been talking about the jail and doing programs to help rehabilitate these convicts. Quick question, what the hell happened to the veteran court? A couple years ago, that was a big push to keep 2 people up on the VA committee. I haven't heard a blink from that. 2, if you're doing this program for convicts, why not do it for the veterans coming home? We don't have schooling or anything like that when we get out. %90 of them, they're handed a rifle, work on, well, myself. I loaded bombs on airplanes. What the hell can I do in the civilian world? Throw luggage? Think about it. Granted, we get the GI Bill so we could go to school, but a lot of things don't work out. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. This time, is there any other public that would like to address the board? All All right, hearing that there is no more, at this time, we'll go ahead and we will adjourn the meeting.
And I'll tell you guys that,